Everyone. I'm Carrie Gatto with Keller Williams Realty. Welcome to another episode of Let's Get Down to Business. Today I am speaking with Debra Jacobs, who is the owner of Money Smart for Life. Hey Debra, how are you?
I'm doing great, Carrie. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too.
To get us started, would you briefly describe your business?
Sure. So I'm a money coach. And what that means is that I help people who are experiencing some stress or overwhelm around their personal finances. And that is most of us. I just saw a survey from the American Psychological Association that said 72% of Americans have felt stress in the past month about their money. So, most of us feel stress about money, and I've certainly been there. So, unlike a financial planner who mostly helps people who have already accumulated some significant assets they help with retirement, sometimes with insurance, and sometimes managing those assets, that's not what I do. What I do is work with people who have maybe ignored their personal finances or who have never put systems into place. And I help people to budget, to make debt pay down plans, to make savings plans, to figure out what their highest values are and to create a spending plan around their values. And also a lot of work on the stories that we tell ourselves about money because, we all have them. We've grown up in our families and in our communities that embed these stories in our head. And sometimes those stories are beneficial and propel us forward, and sometimes they hold us back from taking action. So that's what I do.
That's great. I think this is such important work.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. How did you get started?
So kind of a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. So I'm a single mom by choice. My daughters are now young adults, but when they were little, I ran a preschool for many years. And talk about stories. I told myself the story that I had bandwidth for two things: raising my kids and running my preschool, and that everything else just fell by the wayside. And that included my personal finances. So I've been there. I felt that stress. I ignored them. I didn't save that much. I got myself into debt. And finally, when my kids were a little older, and I said, it's time, I have to do something about this. And I did a deep dive and I started learning about personal finance. And who knew it was so fascinating? I had no idea that I would love it so much. So I started putting some things into place to start transforming my own life financially. And of course, once you do that, everything else changes, not just financial, but your whole life. And I learned more and more. I took classes and I read everything and I listened to every podcast and I read every blog and really did a deep dive and got this little bug in my ear that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people with this. And then lo and behold, the pandemic came along, closed down my preschool with every intention of opening it up again after 2 or 3 weeks, but we all know what happened. And I started putting the business into place, and I've been doing it ever since.
Good for you.
So,
Yeah. It is really interesting. You said, how interesting it can be to learn about money. And I found there is a lot of psychology
a
in
lot,
money. Yeah.
a lot. Yes, yes. There's just a lot of stuff that gets in our way around money.
Yeah, very emotional.
One of the things that I help people with is the emotional side of it, as well as the sort of technical, let's put some systems into place side of it.
Yeah. So tell me, Deborah, what is your favorite thing about your work?
My absolute favorite thing about my work is seeing people's lives change for the better. And they do. I have a 12-session program that people go through, and I've had people who've come into it close to bankruptcy, having already gone through bankruptcy, and sometimes people who make really high incomes, but just have not managed their money well. I think income is not the deciding factor. We think people with money problems just don't make enough money, and that is not always true. But I've seen them come out on the other side in really good shape. and on their way to, reaching whatever goals they have. And it's so gratifying. It's just so gratifying to see people's lives change. So I love what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. How do you typically find your clientele?
Most of my clients come to me through referrals. So that's referrals, sometimes from financial planners who people may come to them needing my kind of service, and that's not the service they provide. So they send them to me.
Sure.
And other professionals who work with people who may have thoughts and feelings around money, and they send them to me. And the other way is word of mouth. So those are really, a little bit through social media, but not that much. Mostly it's through referrals and word of mouth.
Okay. Very, very cool. Anything exciting coming up that you want to share with us?
Yeah. So I was asked to speak, to present workshops for a large national nonprofit that has chapters all across the country. And the nonprofit is a health related nonprofit, but they're putting together a speakers bureau of people who can speak to things that aren't necessarily related to the health issue. And they were looking for somebody to talk about personal finance. So I created a workshop curriculum, and I'm doing my first one next week. And I've got a couple of others lined up, and I'm just so excited about it. So
That's
yeah,
great.
and I'm looking to do more of that.
Excuse me. Is that in person or is it something people can tune
For
in?
now, it's online. I'm going to be doing one for the Iowa chapter and one for the Oregon chapter and one for the Wisconsin chapter. So I'm not flying out there at the moment. I'm doing it, virtually, although they probably will be together in a room.
Yeah,
Um, but I'll be here.
that
So
does sound exciting.
yeah.
Nice. What is something people can do relatively easily to improve their relationship with money?
Yeah. So, most people who provide advice about money will talk about the technical part of it. They'll talk about putting your money in a high yield savings account and then investing in index funds and, Roth IRAs and all that. That's all important. But I think one thing people get scared a little bit by that. And I think one thing people can do is actually write out a list of the things that they value most in life. What are your highest values? Doesn't sound like it's related to money, but it is so related to money. So you really look at what, is it travel? Is that what I really want to do? Is it experiences with my family? Is that what I want to do?
Right.
Is it fancy cars? That's fine. There's no judgment around it. Some people have grown up as car people and love cars. Totally fine. And then look at their spending and see if they're spending in accordance with their list of values. Most people aren't. Most people are spending the way they've been taught to spend. That everybody needs to have a big house and have a nice car and take fancy vacations and all of that. And if you spend according to your values, you might cut back on a lot of those things. Like, for example, if travel is your highest value, you might decide that you want to drive an old beater to save money on transportation, because what you really want to do is travel. And that's where you want all of your, after you've, of course, invested and saved and other things. That's where you want all of your money to go. You want those kinds of experiences. So one thing to improve your relationship with money is really think about it and figure out what your values are.
I
And then
love that. That's such a simple thing
yeah,
to do. And
powerful though.
yes, simple but powerful.
Yeah,
Gets you out of the keeping up with the Joneses
right.
mentality. That's
Exactly.
great. Awesome. Thank you. What do you do besides work?
Well, I love getting outside with my dog, taking some hikes. I'm a big reader, and I'm an empty nester at this point. So I love getting together with friends and getting together with my kids when they're in town or when I go visit them. So those are some of the things I really love doing.
Very great. Do you have any goals this year?
I do. I talked a little bit about the speaking that I'm going to be doing, and I am looking to start offering financial wellness workshops in corporations. So when people think about wellness benefits, they often think about stress reduction and other kinds of things, but don't often think about financial wellness. And that's a big part of wellness. So, a friend and fellow financial coach, Caroline Verley, and I are going to start marketing ourselves to some companies to offer those kinds of workshops and those kinds of benefits to their employees.
What a great idea.
So that's one of my big goals for this year.
And you can avoid that stress in the first place, maybe if you take.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And what's the best way for people to contact you?
The best way for people to contact me is email, and that's Debra, Debra, at moneysmartforlife.com. Or just go to my website, moneysmartforlife.com.
Okay,
Yeah,
great. Debra, it was so great connecting with you, and thank you so much for sharing some of your knowledge today and what you do. Really appreciate your time.
thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Definitely. Thank you for watching, and please feel free to reach out to Debra. She's here to help. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.